Welcome. I am Reverend Amani Malaika, and I welcome you to our April series called You Are a Whole Universe. We are going to be spending the month of April diving into what it means to be an entire being that includes not only what is sometimes called our lesser self, our ego self, but also includes our fullness of our spiritual self and what makes that up. So let's dive in. The second pillar of perennial wisdom, which is the wisdom that we know has run through all faith traditions, indigenous traditions, since the beginning of human existence. We spent time in the winter series talking about the first pillar of perennial wisdom, which is that there is only one. It's all one. The one we see, the one we don't see, it is all the one. Whatever you want to call that one, Allah, God, Mother God, Goddess, absolute intelligence, whatever you want to name it, there is only one. So the second pillar, which we are diving into now for our spring series, is about the idea that we have two ways of knowing. Two ways of knowing ourselves, the cosmos, life, and that way of knowing can either be happening in our lesser self, also known as our ego, also known in the Islamic tradition as Kabir or the Nafs, or through our greater self, or our capital S self. And that our nature, our true nature, is all of those things. And that the lesser self isn't lesser in a bad way, but we have to get in right relationship with it. And the way that I believe that you and I can get in right relationship with it is by getting to know more intimately, more deeply, more consciously the truth of our greater self and what it means and what it feels like and how to discern to know in that way. How to discern and become intimate with when we are living from that higher self or when we are living from that ego place, whose job it is to keep us safe. So the ego has a phenomenal, fantastic job. The thing is that it is also ruled by our biology. And so if our biology says you are not safe, you now need to fight, flight, freeze, and we allow that to rule us in our day-to-day living, you and I create a bunch of BS. That's what we do. But if we become really intimate and familiar with the greater self, this more whole self that includes what the science of mind principle of the threefold nature tells us, the spirit, the soul, and the body. That you and I are made up of this threefold nature, that life itself has a threefold nature. Whether you approach that mother, father, universe, whether you approach that seed, soil, plant, whether you approach that sperm, womb, baby, threefold nature. You and I are each made up of the threefold nature, the mother, the father, and the universe. And it's through that knowing, and not just knowing, but embodiment, that you and I are actually in the practice of spiritual living. You and I are not in the practice of spiritual living when we are not intimately aware and conscious of the fullness of our whole true nature. The other piece of that whole true nature is that this is a power for good that you and I can use, which is what Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, taught us. There's a power for good in the universe and you can use it. And Mary Magdalene, Jesus of Nazareth, beloved, used to call this one, this infinite, holy, blessed one, the good. I kind of love that. So you can think of this practice that I'm going to invite you into, this deeper understanding, this greater consciousness, this growing, evolving awareness, much like the universe itself, as growing towards greater and greater and greater good. Is anybody in the room, anybody on camera, not interested in greater good? Does everybody want to experience greater good for yourselves, for your communities, for your beloveds, for the planet itself? Yes? Yes. So let's talk about how we can do that. So one way to begin to understand this threefold nature in a spiritual context may be ridding yourself of the BS and the dogma that you might have been raised in or that has been put upon you as we live in this Western culture through a pretty distorted version of Christianity. I think we can all agree on that. So this threefold nature, though, goes through all of the faith traditions, just like perennial wisdom of this lesser knowing and higher knowing. And it says that you and I are the micro of the macro. That this threefold nature, which is that the divine, the spirit itself, has a spark of an idea that then moves through the consciousness, the law, as it's known in the science of mind metaphysical teaching, and moves through the law and comes into the manifest form as you and I know it in material reality. Any of you practice metaphysics? Any of you online already practicing metaphysics? That was just Metaphysics 101. And so, that very same process of creation is happening in your being. That exact same idea, womb, care for, encouragement, melding, readying, and birthing. Did you know, guys, that you also have a womb? That every living thing on this planet has the possibility to birth? Your spiritual wholeness, the universe that you are, includes your capacity in your feminine nature, which every single one of us has some version of, to create, to birth, to bring forward, to bring into the material reality that we get to experience and call life itself. And because that is true, becoming conscious of all of these aspects in you, all of these processes in you, is going to give you a more masterful use of this truth, of this spiritual principle, of what we might call the law of manifestation. Because the thing is that law, that process, that spiritual mechanism of idea, germination, and manifestation is always in motion. It's never not in motion. You can be in an unconscious relationship with that. You can be in a conscious relationship with that. You can begin to have a masterful use of your role to play in this infinite life, or not. You can know yourself as the very power of the divine, or not. But that reality is coming into form over and over and over, just like the seasons are turning over and over again, just like the planet we live on continues to spin. There is nothing to do about that. It's part of the isness. It just is what is. But getting into right relationship with what is the business of spiritual living. Yes? Very good. So in this spirited way of being, in this choice to become more intimate and discover your whole true nature, let's talk about what it means to have the Spirit moving in you. I just heard Ricky Byers in my head. Anybody else? I feel the Spirit moving in me. All right. So how do you feel the Spirit moving in you? How do you know that you have caught the spark of the divine through an amazing idea that maybe surprises you? Through an idea that you're like, where did that come from? I never thought that before. Right? Anybody have those ideas online? I want you to think about this for a minute. Think about the times in your life where something has occurred to you that is a little bit out of the ordinary for you. Michael Beckwith of the Agape Spiritual Center calls that catching the spark of the divine. Catching a divine idea. And that divine idea, those sparks of the divine are ever sparking. And the one place you have to catch that spark is where? In your own mind, in your own being. Has anybody had the experience of having like a really great idea? I know as a songwriter and artist, this has happened to me on multiple occasions, where I've had a melody in my head, because melodies just come, right? Sparks of the divine. Melodies playing in my head all the time. Melody in my head, and back in my songwriting days, I would either act on that melody or, got busy, didn't write it down, didn't do anything with it. and then hear it on the radio a few weeks later. Yes? You've had a great idea that you didn't really do anything with, and then you turned around and were like, wait a minute, that was my idea. How did they, what? One mind. My mind is in the mind of the Holy Blessed One. And that river of consciousness, that flowing of divine ideas, those sparks of creation that are waiting to be caught and brought into form are ever flowing. And you and I have the good grace, the great honor and privilege to be alive on this planet, to catch those sparks and bring them into form. To be the very artists of our own lives. Like, that's exciting. Anybody excited by that? Right? That's so exciting. And so when you become more intimate and familiar with that possibility in your own mind, in your own being, you can do something with that. You can now intentionally, consciously bring life into form, rather than like kind of stumble and create and fall, take other people down with you. Anybody have some familiarity with that experience? Yeah. So when spiritual circles, when we talk about raising consciousness, and activist circles, when you and I talk about raising consciousness, uplifting humanity, that is what you and I are actually talking about. About getting in right relationship with the truth of our whole nature. Because that whole nature is the one who's going to catch the great divine idea to create change. To create the world that you actually want to be living in. To have the experience of your own divinity, which for me is the why of it all. I believe that experience of knowing myself as divinely appointed to this time and place on this planet is the greatest gift I have to offer the world. Is the greatest power I have to create a world that works for everyone, is by showing up as my whole true self. And I have no doubt that when more and more and more of you choose to make that a priority, a commitment, the world has no choice but to change and work for everybody. To be that place that we dream of, where all peoples, all creation, all of life itself is abundantly, harmoniously existing together. Wowing each other, delighting each other in all of our unique ways of being. When you and I catch that spark, it then moves into the soul of you, the law of you, just like there's the macro infinite law that is ever receiving Spirit's divine idea and always says yes, always, without fail, it's its job. That very law exists in you. We can call it a whole bunch of things, but I like to call it the soul. Because what I know about the soul in my own life and from other teachings and faith traditions across the globe is the soul is the place that will always tell you the truth. The soul is the place where the ego cannot rule. The soul is the place where your trauma has not made a mess of your choices. Your soul is the place that is always, always going to nudge you into right action because it is always accepting those divinely appointed ideas and readying them to move in right action. Always. And it's the place that you can absolutely trust to give you good advice. It's that place in you that cannot be harmed, cannot be broken, cannot lose favor in the infinite, holy, blessed one. It's that place in you that heard the idea and said, yes, let's do that. Yes. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know that feeling? And it lives in your body, right? Your body tells you instantly. Your body will tell you in a second, Your body will tell you in a second, bring it! That's your soul communicating with you. That's that level of you that is saying, I have received the order and I am in. But what it takes to hear that yes and that no means that you and I have to busy ourselves to create the conditions for the hearing, for the listening, for the feeling. So much of spiritual practice and teaching in this modern world that you and I share together has completely pushed aside that piece of the work. The listening, the feeling, has forgotten the value. It's like you and I often spend our time in spiritual practice trying to transcend that very thing, right? We are just like, let me get out of here and get up here. Let me transcend these pesky emotions and feelings and messy, physical, fleshy things. And yet, all the armoring up we do, the armoring up you do that is your regular sort of habitual armor, whether that's your distractions and your numbing and your bad habits and your whatever, your misbeliefs that keep you from life itself, because somewhere along the line, your trauma, your bad experiences got deepened into what you believe to be true about life. And here's what I will say about that. You came by that honestly. Right? You came by that misbelief that life is full of pain and suffering, and you are here to just get it through it. You came by that honestly, righteously. Some horrible, tragic, heinous ridiculousness has happened to every single person who can hear my voice. Not all of us are having the same experience on this planet, and still the good is moving in your being, moving towards greater and greater and greater good. And I believe it's particularly those of us who are feeling burdened by trauma, burdened by systems and structures that were not built for me or you or them. It is particularly important that you and I become more and more aware of this greater and greater truth, so that those chains that have us bound in misbelief can be broken. There is no greater power than the truth. And you are a truth. Your whole nature is made of divine good. And this process and this power that you have access to in your own being is greater than circumstance or condition, period. And it is the masterful use of that power that moves you towards greater and greater freedom. So if you can't hear your soul talking to you through your body, through that sacred fleshy thing called body, you are missing the opportunity to be powerful in your own life. It is a practice of getting still enough to hear, as Rev. Angel Kyoto Williams talks about. Quiet enough to listen. That puts you into relationship, greater intimate relationship with your own power, And the physicists tell me that power is simply energy that gets used. Which means every single piece of life on this planet has energy to use, which means that every single piece of life on this planet has power to make use of. But that power doesn't live in what you are guarding yourself from. That power lives in your ability to be more fully, wholly who you are, with your ears and your hearts and your bodies wide open to that spark of the divine that is trying to come through you. And when you allow that spark of the divine to come through you, you then materialize that really good divine idea. Yes? That really good, juicy, good for everybody, for me and for you and the planet and the climate and all the things, that idea is going to serve it all because it's divine. But it's going to come through you if you let it, if you discern it, if you feel that holy yes. And part of, we'll talk in a little while about the holy no. But right now we're going to talk about the holy yes. So you've gotten that yes, let's move towards that. As Ernest Holmes called it, the impulse of love. It points the way. Love is always pointing the way towards greater good. It's up to you and I to hear it, to feel it, and then to do what? To act on it. To move in right action, to allow yourself to be moved and take that step towards the good that has already been growing in you, readying in you, incubating in you. And then it moves out into the world. You take that spark of the divine, you take the energy that is yours in your being, and you allow it to become real. As in the realized universe, the manifest reality. The idea becomes flesh. Which also means that everything in this material realm, everything in this manifest reality, including our fleshy bodies, is sacred. There is no other possibility, right? Because there's only one. There is only one. There is one that includes it all. The spiritual level, the soul level, and the manifest reality level. And you and I have to get in relationship with the process of that. Understanding that there is no separation from a spiritual idea and a fleshy body. One thing. It's sort of like water, right? Water can exist in a liquid state, in a vapor state, in a frozen solid state. Is the vapor state better than the frozen state? It's like vapor state is holy, ice is evil. All water. You and I, in these fleshy, solid forms, solid-ish forms, are just as holy and sacred as that spiritual divine spark. I would say maybe even a little more. Here's why. You managed to move through that whole process and show up here. Anybody birthed a child? Yeah, me too. It sucks. It is not for everybody. It is a flippin' miracle beyond miracles that human life continues to exist on this planet. Birthing a child is serious work. Somebody did serious work for you to get here. The fact that you are here is a miracle. We're celebrating. You are sacred. And it started You started as a divine idea in the mind of the Holy Blessed One. And from that little spark of an idea, made your way through somebody's body into form. Holy crap! May you, if nothing else, if you leave today, if nothing else, I want you to hear, you are sacred. You are a holy manifestation of the divine. That is your true whole nature. You are here on purpose, by divine appointment, anointed. You were meant for this life. The divine itself said so. And guess what? I want you to practice that discovery as your homework. I'm going to share a few affirmations. For those of you in the room, you can write these down if you so choose. I will post them somewhere on our socials, on our website. And for those of you online, these will live somewhere. Check our website for them, abqcsl.org. But what I want you to do is to chant out louder within, I am a divine idea. I receive the spark of the divine in my fertile soil. My very body is the divine reality. I am sacred. Let's say that together. I am a divine idea. Yes. I receive the spark of the divine in my fertile soul. Amen. My very body is a divine reality. I am sacred. I'm going to give you a step for those of you who want to superpower this practice. Do it in the mirror. Naked. Eye contact with your very holy, sacred self. All right, where I believe I have a Zenobia at a piano.
So sacred, so secret, so precious, I am so sacred, so secret, so precious, I am.
Feel free to sing along.
So sacred, so secret, so precious, I am. So sacred, so secret, so precious, I am. I will share, 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 I will share this love. So sacred, so secret, so precious, I am. So sacred, so secret, so precious, I am. So sacred, sacred, so secret, so precious. I am so sacred, so secret, so precious. I am. I will share. 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 I will share this love.
Let's do it one more time and sing it like you mean it.
So sacred, so secret, so precious. I am so sacred, so secret, so precious. I am so sacred, so secret, so precious. I am so sacred, so secret, so precious. I am. I will share. 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 I will share this love.
And so it is.